Hey everybody, Steven Human here with Superhuman Customs, and I've got another custom action figure for you today. Remember, we focus generally on McFarlane action figures because I absolutely love them, and they're really easy to customize, whether you're taking them completely apart or just painting them. And oftentimes they don't have all of the really detailed paint apps, so it's a lot of fun to do. And today we've got one that I've been wanting to do for a while, but I couldn't find the figure, and that is the Batman from the new The Batman movie, for those of you who didn't see it, which if you're watching this channel, my goodness, we're all geeks. Go watch the movie. Now, I wasn't really excited about this movie. The older I've gotten, the less I've liked Batman, which is crazy because I've done so many Batman figures this year, but they've all been really cool customs. But as the character of Batman, the older I get, the more I'm just like, dude, use your billions of dollars and make real change, just don't go around beating people up. So I wasn't excited for this movie, but when my wife and I went and saw it, I really did enjoy it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. But the figure just didn't really do it for me. It seemed much too crisp, much too like, hey, this suit is brand new. But after doing the Lee Bermejo Batman, I thought, you know, if I got this guy, I could really make him look super cool. So that is what we are going to do. I'm gonna ding him up. We're gonna make him look like he did in the movie. We're gonna add a little bit of mud to his boots because he was just dirty in that movie, which is great. That's what Batman should be. So I'm really excited to turn this guy into something special, a little work of art. So let's get going. I'm excited to get this guy going. So what I've done is I've just got some gray. We're gonna start with the gray. I'm trying to do some dry brush stuff, so I've dusted it off, and let's go ahead and start going to town on this guy. And it looks like this gray is really close to the gray that is already here. And so it's not doing very much. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is I'm gonna move on to the cape here. So let's go ahead and get a little bit more paint, and let's start doing the cape. Let's start dusting in here and adding in this so that it catches those edges. What I want to do is very similar to what I did on that Lee Bermejo Batman, is just add this sort of stuff, these textures, so that he starts standing out a little bit. So a little bit of gray in here, it'll catch the edges of the mask and add some nice texturing. So obviously it's not doing anything here. So we need to go with a lighter color in here, but on the mask a little bit, it's doing something. Right, I've added a little bit more gray to the paintbrush, and now it's starting to make a little bit of a difference. It is standing out, it is dinging things up just enough, and I think it's looking pretty good. It's already giving it a nice weathered texture. I just gotta keep going back and then making sure it's got just the right amount. I don't want too much, I don't want too little. And so you can see how it's starting to make a difference here on this character. It's nice and subtle, but it's definitely doing something. It's making him stand out in the ways that I want to. And that is exactly what we are after. I want a slightly more dirtied Batman. So yeah, so the key in this one was just coming back with a little bit more of this cheap gray craft paint. That's all that it required. See, and then going over it with my finger. There we go. See, look at that. And then getting here on the boots. Sometimes a little, just going a little bit more, you know, is what the doctor ordered. And not trying to be quite so subtle, because I'm a subtle guy when it comes to this stuff generally. But if you're gonna make a difference, sometimes you gotta lay it on a little bit more thickly. Let's go ahead and move to the back of the cape. Now what I've done is I've grabbed a little bit more paint here, and I'm gonna do exactly what I did with the Bermejo. I'm just gonna go down these ridges and make them look like they've gotten just scraped up against stuff as he's been fighting. I'm gonna use my finger a lot here just to deaden some of this. Smooth it out a little bit. You can see a little goes a long way. All right, so far, Batman is looking pretty good. It's just nice and subtle. We're gonna go in with the white, but before we do that, I've decided to add something to this one. So just today, I got this Batcycle from the Batman movie. A friend of mine, Edgar Layton, he called me up and said, hey, I saw you got that Batman. I'm gonna give you this Batcycle, I'm just getting rid of it. So he gave it to me because he's awesome. So we're gonna do the same thing to this Batcycle that we've done on Batman. So I'm gonna hit it with some gray real quick. We're gonna go into the white and some silver and just make this thing look dirty too. So let's get going. All right, same exact deal as the Batman. I'm gonna go through here and just add some of this stuff with the dry brush. Hit some of these edges particularly. Clean it off with my hands a little bit. The cool thing is that this motorcycle comes with this little stand back here. So it stands up perfectly, and when he's on display, it's gonna end up looking pretty cool. So I'm gonna dirty this sucker up, run my finger over it. I actually really like the finger painting aspect of this. Back to the Batman, here we go. We're gonna start with the white now. And I'm gonna do what I did with the Bermejo Batman. I'm gonna hit these edges first and start to highlight them just enough, and then start to dust in some of these areas. I want it to get around a little bit, but not too much, because the white will really stand out. And I don't want much. I'm gonna go back in with the silver afterward, but you can see some of these scruffs, they look pretty good. It'll also help to highlight a little bit on the cape up here. This is all just highlighting purposes. That's all. I don't want the white to stand out. I'd like when the gray would stand out a little bit, but not so much with the white. Let's put a little bit on his cowl and see if we can spread it around. Let's get a little bit on his nose. Yeah, again, we don't want much, but hitting some of these edges will look pretty good. Oh, see? That's not looking too bad at all. Batmobile's turn, same sort of deal. We don't want too much on there. Just hit these edges a little bit. Put a little bit in here. Make it look like some scratches. I want to get along some of these edges here because the gray didn't really stand out too much. So I want to hit, oh, look at that. That looks really nice. He's climbed on this thing and it's scraped up a little bit, and that's what we're after. And then the same thing, just in a few places, hit up some of these areas in here, give it just a little bit of niceness. I think with the Batmobile is gonna look really nice once I hit the silver, because I'm gonna hit up some of these rivets and things. I know in the movie it was all kind of painted black just like this, but I wanna just have some of these areas hit a little bit more with the silver, hit some of these areas, because again, I'm not so interested in being screen accurate as I am in just making a cool little piece of art. So sometimes going through and adding something that's not necessarily from the movie is going to look really, really cool. Back to Batman. I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush on this, and we're moving into the silver. So I'm just going to go through here and I'm going to hit these edges, because all of this is supposed to be metal on Batman. And so obviously this is going to stand out more than the others. So I want to have this go on a little bit more lightly, and the small brush is going to do that for me. Just hit these little edges here, and you can see how it stands out. I'm also going to hit some of these right here on the bat symbol. Let's add some silver here so that we can see, because this was a tool in the movie that he used to cut things with occasionally. And so let's go ahead and make it look that way. Get him kind of dinged up here with some silver. And I'm just going to kind of go through on all of this that same way, just nice and light. Just a little detail here and there, kind of along where these edges are, to show that Batman has taken a few hits. Now with the head, again, I want to be a little bit subtle on these edges with the silver, because the silver stands out so much. So I want to just put a little bit, wipe it with my finger, and then it's going to come out to the way that I want. I really want to hit some of these seams in here. I want to make these seams really pop. And that comes through in just putting a little bit and wiping. And as you can see, it starts to stand out pretty good. His face is looking good. He's looking kind of dinged up. I'm liking it. Now it's time to go into some of these details on the belt and on the hands and stuff like that. So like some of these things here where they're actually little clips and things, I'm going to go through and paint some of these with the silver. Because, I don't like to go back to colors once I've gone through them. So I'm going to go through and hit these. I'm going to go ahead and do some on his little grapple gun here, and also on his hands here on the knuckles. I'm going to give him the brass knuckles. So that's going to be my focus now, is going through and getting these, and then we will move on to the Batcycle at that point. All right, so I'm just going to go through and add some details on some of these rivets and nuts and bolts and stuff. Just nice and simple. I'm really happy with how Batman is turning out. He is looking great. And I'm just going to go through on some of these little areas here and just kind of add a little bit of texture, a little bit of the silver. The silver obviously will play off really nicely here on the Batcycle as I go through and just add some little flecks and stuff. The Batcycle's looking nice. Now we're going to move back to Batman, and we're going to do something that's not necessarily movie accurate. I want these straps here to be brown instead of black. I want them to be leather because, again, it just adds a little bit of contrast to the figure. I did the same thing with my Collect and Connected Bane, and it ended up looking really, really great. So I'm going to do the same thing with Batman. These are going to be brown straps, just to make it so they stand out a little bit more. In the movie, I'm sure that they were just straight up black. And I could paint them black, which also would add some nice contrast, just like the belt up here. But I think that this will look better, is just having them be brown. So I think it's looking pretty cool. And I'm just gonna continue with that for the next minute or so. Now the brown's a little bit lighter than I wanted, so my brother sent me some of this Vallejo Game Wash. So I'm gonna try that for the first time here. And let's see what it does to this brown. I would like it to just be a little bit darker. Not a ton darker. Ooh, there we go. Look at that. All right, let's just see what we get here. I figured it would work kind of like the Nuln oil that I already have. And just, so less is more, really. And you just kind of mush it around. That is helping. That is making it look a little bit darker. All right, similar to last time, I have my sponge and my dark mud. Oh, I guess this is the brown mud. I wanted to go with the other one first. All right, well, we'll do the opposite then, because I was unaware that I was grabbing the darker mud. So let's see. I was looking at it going like, this isn't the same color I expected. Put it on in some areas here. I want to get it on the tires pretty good. See, I like this mud better on the blacks. It just comes off a little bit more strong. And then the brown comes out a little bit more on top of it. So I think I'll go through and add this. Get a little bit on his hands. You don't necessarily want it to really stand out. You just want it to feel like, okay, this bike's muddy. Batman was driving around in the rain, which I think in the last scene of the movie, he was in fact driving around in the rain. So it works. Got some on the stand there. Wipe that off. All right, yes. Looking so good. These mud textures that my brother got me from Vallejo are, if you've got a muddy character, man, they're the only way to go. They work so beautifully. The time has arrived. As I've said, this is not my favorite version of Batman. I enjoyed the movie, but the suit never did anything for me. But this guy is now looking pretty awesome. I'm really glad about how all the textures turned out, digging him up. The mud looks really nice. The texture, the difference between the browns and the black. I'm really, really happy with this guy. Now let's go ahead and pull up the Batcycle. I'm happy with how this turned out too. I'm gonna have to start playing with some of the vehicles. I only have one, like I said, the 66 Batmobile, but it's worth, playing around with. This guy looked really nice. He's got some mud on there. He's got some other textures. He will definitely match this Batman. And so this was a huge win for my display. Again, I'd like to thank Edgar Layton for giving me this Batcycle and for completing this set. These guys are going to look awesome together. I hope that these are helpful. I hope that you guys are customizing your figures and having a ton of fun. Get this Batman, muck him up, make him look cool, and I'll see you guys next week.